and make sure we get a chance to have a good Q&A session at the end and have enough time for that. I'm Erin Jones from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. I want to welcome those of you here in the room, as well as those of you joining us virtually via Zoom or on the phone tonight. Thank you for taking time out of your busy lives to be here with us. We have worked hard to accommodate this in-person engagement, but also we've got folks again online and on the phone, so we may encounter some hiccups along the way and appreciate your patience as we go along. We did engage with several folks in the open house, and we had some questions about the flyers that were mailed out, so I did want to highlight this flyer here is the only one that came from EPA, so if you got one that didn't look like this, it wasn't from us, but we did want to highlight that for you and let you know that we did send that to every residence within our modeled risk map. It's over there, and we had a couple of blocks of buffer around the edges of that to make sure we got everyone that was in the blue area. So that was who we sent that flyer to, and this is what it looked like, and we have copies of it if you want to pick one up from our EPA table. So for those of you just joining us virtually, if you're having any trouble, please reach out using the chat feature. You can find that chat feature on the bottom of your screen. Go to the next slide. Again, so I'm Erin Jones, EPA Region 4, which is in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm the moderator for today's meeting. In Region 4, I serve as an emerging contaminants coordinator, which means many of the issues I'm involved with center around new science and evolving information that the agency has learned could be impacting public health or the environment. Sometimes the science is so new that we don't yet have regulations in place. And that's exactly the space that we're in tonight. In those moments, we're actively engaging with our communities, stakeholders, and our co-regulators to move towards solutions. And so we are going to hear tonight to give you background on an important issue facing your community, discuss our agency's planned next steps, and most importantly, be able to answer your questions. We've gathered here at the historic Monumental Baptist Church. Let me stop here to thank those of you who call this church home for allowing us to use this beautiful location to be here with you tonight. This church is near the neighborhood, but just outside of that model risk map, and we're going to acknowledge and further explain those risks that exist in the community. For several reasons that my colleagues will describe today, this is a tough issue to communicate, and I want to acknowledge that this may not be an easy conversation that we're going to have. We want to talk about the flow of the meeting so that you'll know what to expect and when you can raise those questions at the appropriate time. Tonight, we'll hear from EPA Region 4 Administrator Daniel Blackman, EPA Region 4 Air and Radiation Division Director Caroline Freeman, and EPA Headquarters Senior Risk Communications Advisor Madeline Beal, and also Shelby County Health Department Director Dr. Michelle Taylor. We will also have a panel of technical experts available for a Q&A session, including our partners at the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, or ATSDR, and the Shelby County Health Department. We're going to address questions this evening once our speakers have shared all of their content with you. So when the time comes for QA, we'll first take questions from those in the room, but we'll also kind of fluctuate back and forth between those Zoom questions that we're getting. So if you're online, please go ahead. As you hear the content, as you think of a question, go ahead and type it in and submit it, and we'll be tracking those. And then for a third rotation, if anyone's participating via phone, we're going to have a moment where we can unmute those folks and hear from them as well. So we'll continue to kind of cycle back and forth between questions here in the room, online, or on the phone, and we'll do the best to get to everybody. If we can't answer your question or don't have time, we're going to commit to following up. So as a moderator, I'll do my best to keep us on target and make sure your questions are answered and that we communicate clearly about what we know and how we're working to address it. It might mean that we ask you to clarify your questions or ask our speakers to readdress something that we don't think is clear. I also want to acknowledge that you may have other concerns tonight that go beyond the specific risk from this one chemical and this one facility that we're here to talk about. And while it's always important for EPA to hear about all of your concerns, our team that's here today is prepared to update you on this one source of air pollution impacting this community. However, if we don't know the answer to a question that you have about other issues, we'll do our best to follow up as soon as possible afterwards. It's very important to us. Next slide. Oh, not next slide. Back to one. Here in the room, go back to the contact info. If we don't get to your questions, you can always email us at region4ETO@epa.gov on this slide, or call the 800 number, 800-241-1754. We're recording this session, and we'll also make the slides available. So we'll have that on our webpage that's on this slide. So the recording will appear once we have a chance to get the transcription done. So hopefully in a couple of days, we'll have that on that website link so you can refer back to this or share it with anybody who was unable to come tonight and make sure that they have a chance to listen to the content too. With that, I would like to now turn it over to EPA Region 4 Administrator Daniel Blackman. In his role, he oversees our agency's goals of protecting human health and the environment here in the Southeast region. For those of you that don't know, EPA Region 4 represents 8 states, including Tennessee, and the 6 federally recognized tribes. Regional Administrator Blackman is a passionate leader who has dedicated his career to creating economic opportunities for marginalized communities throughout the South and working to ensure a healthy environment for all, not just a select few. Regional Administrator Blackman, the floor is yours.
Excuse me. Good evening. How's everyone doing? Can you hear me? Hold on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, here we go. First and foremost, on behalf of EPA Region 4 and the Biden-Harris administration and Administrator Michael Regan, we want to say thank you. We know how precious and valuable time with your families is at this time of the evening. We thank those of you who may have joined us this morning, and we want to make sure that we are very respectful of your time and as informative as possible throughout this time. And we'll be sharing a tremendous amount of information. So again, this evening has been very important for us, and we're hearing not only committed, but in convening meetings like this, we believe it's essential for us as an agency to be transparent, but also to make sure that we are giving you all our best assessment of how we can be better partners as a federal agency, but also our responsibility, role, and commitment to our democracy and communicating with each and every one of you, especially in the hardest conversations, being available and being present. I want to make sure we take this point of privilege to thank Pastor Brian for allowing us to gather here today. I want to thank all of you who call this place house of worship, this house of worship home, and those of you for just really quickly, I have a civil rights background. I'm very proud to know that as of September 24th, Administrator Michael Regan created the first ever Office of Environmental Justice within the Environmental Protection Agency. And it's not only something that is a very huge step, but is a portion and an extension of why we're here tonight. We're not checking a box. We are here for a very long-running commitment to communicate and to be available and to share information. So again, on behalf of Region 4, those of us who are here to serve and our partners who are also so appreciative of being here tonight, we say thank you and we bring you greetings from our Atlanta office and just want to continue in this conversation. This is not only an unprecedented time of access and communication, but we're aggressively implementing programs throughout the EPA and the government to make sure that issues and conversations like this are at the forefront of our conversations. Those conversations that at times may be more celebratory in what we're able to do through funding and resources, but also the tough conversations that we have to make sure the community and our role is built on a foundation of trust and mutual respect for the communities in which you all live and call home. Tonight's meeting is an example of these efforts, and EPA is stepping outside of our traditional role of proposing a rule and giving the community a certain amount of time to learn about the rule and provide feedback. The short of what that means is we could have done this virtually, but that would in no way show our respect and admiration for this community, and we needed to be here in person to make sure that you all were able to have this conversation and we're able to look at you and inform you of where we are, where we stand, and what is going on. Throughout this rulemaking process, we are very committed to making sure that you are a part of it from its inception, and we are preventing any challenges or barriers for you not knowing what happens through the rulemaking process and going forward beyond this evening. While this process begins, we want to make sure that you all are informed about how the issue impacts you, your families, your children, and generations to come. I want to pause there and say that Administrator Michael Regan and myself are both husbands and fathers, and so we take this opportunity to speak to your families very seriously, and our agency does respect the time that you are spending with or without them this evening for us to share this information. Again, thank you to the staff and the leadership of the Agency for Toxic Substances and the Disease Registry, the Shelby County Health Department, and the Tennessee Department of Conservation. Again, this is a new approach we're taking. As it was stated by Aaron Jones, We do know that there may be some challenging conversations, and we're here in our postures to listen and to be aware of what goes on. And we also know that communicating is paramount. Before coming up here, I had a chance to speak to Maxine Thomas Moss, who is in the community and also offered prior to me coming up her perspective of what we could do better to communicate within this community. So I want you all to know that we're listening and we're attentive, not only when we're in front of a podium, but when we're having one-on-one discussions with each of you. Again, we want to make sure that in this practice that we're taking, I mentioned the Office of Environmental Justice. One of the things I want you to know about this is that we're focused not only on the fair implementation of environmental laws and the protection of public health and the environment, but we've been coordinating with our state partners throughout this process. And one of the things that I think is most important is for you to understand that Administrator Regan and Region 4, myself, our office, and our staff, we started off the term in service of this administration with a journey to justice, because we knew that the road towards justice, especially in a city like Memphis, is absolutely critical to us being in front of folks that know the history and live in the bedrock of the civil and human rights movement. And our job is to make sure that environmental justice and civil rights are not held in separate conversation, but they're jointly responsible in the role and the commitment that we have. We're here tonight to talk about air pollution from a chemical called ethylene oxide. My colleagues that are here with us and those who are stakeholders will discuss in more detail ethylene oxide and how it can cause health risks. It's also important, it's an important chemical to ensure the safety of a wide variety of medical devices that are used by doctors, hospitals, and dentists. And again, we're sharing this information for full transparency, but we also want you to know that this chemical is used in a type of facility known as a commercial sterilizer. There are about 100 commercial sterilizers around the country, and some of them are emitting ethylene oxide into the outdoor air at levels that is very concerning for us. It's very concerning for our agency, and it's very concerning for our region and for our country. This includes the sterilization services of the Tennessee facility here in Memphis. As I stated earlier, this is only the beginning of a conversation. The EPA is sharing information now so that you can have access to the same information that we have at the Environmental Protection Agency and can make informed decisions about how risks and your health will be impacted, and also how you can be more informed for your families. EPA is committed to keeping you informed throughout this process, and there are a few ways that we're going to do that. First would be risk in Memphis is high, and we want to just be very clear and say that first and foremost. I'll repeat that for those online as well as those who are here today. Risk in Memphis is high, and EPA is very concerned about that risk. Second, we're committed to protecting health in communities facing risk from ethylene oxide, and we're taking this issue very seriously, and it is a priority of my office and our administration. I commit to you today that we will continue to work on this issue until the risk levels are reduced. We are not here to check a box. We're not here to go to our homes while you all remain in the communities. We will continue to communicate with our state partners, and with many of you that we are meeting tonight, the information was given on how you can contact us, and we would be very appreciative if you would use that contact information. This includes using the tools that have been made available to us at EPA, such as regulations and on-the-ground partnerships with our states, communities, facilities, and anyone who can work with us to help to reduce the risk. These partnerships have already reduced risks in a number of communities, but we need to do more, and that more begins with each of you. Third, you deserve to be a part of this process. Each and every one of you that are here, as well again as those who are watching virtually and may watch us on other media platforms. This process cannot take or go forward without your presence, your support, your commitment, and your involvement through engagement. Your voices need to be heard, your concerns need to be shared, and more important than anything else, your needs need to be met. You can also find more details about everything we will talk about tonight, including how to make your voice heard on EPA's website, over the phone, or by directly mailing us. In closing, I want to just thank you all. We do know how tough and challenging conversations like this are. We are sensitive to the civil rights issues and challenges that go along with these conversations, but please know that we have committed the full resources of the EPA, of federal agencies throughout the Southeast and throughout the country, but also please accept the sign that we are here tonight not running away from the issue, but running towards it and making sure that we stand with you throughout this process. At this time, I'll turn it back over to Erin Jones, and thank you for welcoming us tonight.
Thank you, Regional Administrator Blackman. I just want to pop in really quick for those who joined us in the interim or worked with us in the beginning to hear the instructions. Please use that Q&A chat if you're online and you've got questions. If you have any technical issues, use the chat box. So the Q&A feature is for questions you want to bring to our panel, and then the chat is for any technical assistance you might need if you can't hear or something like that. Again, a reminder, we're recording this session. It'll be made available later to our website. And we will also have Q&A coming up, so just for those who joined us just recently. So thank you again, Regional Administrator Blackman. Now I would like to introduce Madeline Beal. She is from our EPA headquarters office, and she works to help us out with risk communications on issues like this. So Madeline, I'll turn it to you now.
Thank you, Erin. I am going to share some information about the chemical ethylene oxide, and I am going to talk through the health impacts and what we know about this chemical. But before I get into those details, I want to also just talk about what we've seen in the community so far. My colleague and I had an opportunity to drive around, look around, walk around a little bit today. Went by Alton Elementary, which I think is right on the edge of this risk map. And I'm a mother of 4 children, and I just want to acknowledge what I think Erin said before. It's okay, it's reasonable if you're angry, if you're upset. If this doesn't feel like a good conversation to have, it's even okay if you're angry at me personally. I won't take it personally, because I can understand that it would be very frustrating to be in the audience tonight. A big part of my job is to help explain risk that we find at the agency to communities. And I have the job that I have because I think it's deeply important to our ability to achieve our mission to protect health, that we actually go out and really try to put this risk in terms that people can understand. But that said, I understand that sometimes when we talk about technical issues, scientific issues, regulatory issues, sometimes it's not very understandable. So please, if we say something that doesn't make sense, that's on us. And please call us out on that, ask us questions, push back, because we really do want to make sure that you have what you need to make decisions for your family, to be a part of this process, to make sure this risk comes down. And that's important to us. So next slide, please. So I'm going to start with some of the basics. Some of you may know this information already, so for those of you who know this, please bear with us. But I want to make sure that we're sort of all starting from the same place. So the first question is, what is ethylene oxide? So ethylene oxide is also sometimes called EtO. You will hear that we tend to call it EtO almost as much as we call it ethylene oxide. That's the same chemical. Also, sometimes folks call it EO. So if you hear EO, EtO, or ethylene oxide, it's all exactly the same thing. Ethylene oxide is a colorless, flammable, and odorless gas, at least in the concentrations that we think it would be in your community. If it's really high concentrations, it does have a sweetish smell, but typically we wouldn't expect you to be experiencing that in this community. EtO is used to kill bacteria and other germs. It is used, because of that, it is used to sterilize medical equipment. And that is what Tennessee Sterilization Services of Tennessee uses EtO for. They use it to sterilize medical equipment before it goes to market. So if you go to the doctor and you get an IV, you know that IV is perfectly sterile and safe. And that is what Tennessee Sterilization Services of Tennessee uses it for. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about where we think there's not risk, the things that we're not particularly concerned about before I talk about the things that we are concerned about. So EtO is coming out of this facility as air pollution only. There is no indication that EtO is causing risk to the water or to the land, to the soil anyway. It's just air pollution that we're concerned about here. And then when it comes to short-term health benchmarks, we haven't seen any evidence at this time that EtO near this facility is causing urgent or acute health issues like nausea, dizziness, or breathing problems. This is an important point. The science that we've done and that my colleague Caroline's going to talk about in a little bit of detail only shows that there is risk from long-term exposure to this chemical near this facility. And then also generally as a consumer of a product that's been sterilized with EtO, so if you go into the hospital and you need an IV or you need a catheter, there's typically not any concern from that exposure that you might get to that product from residual EtO left on it. Again, what we're really worried about is risk to people who live near these facilities, and then also people who work at or near them, and also children who go to school near them as well. So then the next slide is on what we are worried about. If those are the things we weren't worried about, these are the things that we are worried about. So what we've learned is that EtO can cause cancer when people are exposed over long periods of time. And we have a very specific definition for what long periods of time means at EPA. And when we say that, we mean if you breathe EtO at the levels that we have seen from birth until age 70, every single day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, at those levels, we are seeing risk levels that are at a level that we are concerned about. Certain people are more at risk from EtO exposure than others, and this can happen for one of two reasons. The first is that they might be exposed to more EtO. And so this might happen if you're a worker that works in one of these facilities, as an example. Another reason people can be more at risk is because their bodies, for some reason, are more susceptible to this chemical. Children and babies are more susceptible to EtO. And I just want to say that because we know this about EtO, and Caroline's also going to talk about this in a little more detail, but because we know this about EtO, we actually changed the way we do our science to make sure that children are accounted for, so we really look at risk from birth on, to make sure that when we make the rules to govern this, that we're being protective even of children and babies. I care about babies, I've got several of my own. So I want to talk just a little bit, I guess I did want to make one other point, which is tonight we're really focused on, a lot of the presentation is focused on risk to folks who live near this facility, but we are also concerned about risk for folks who work there and folks who work near it. And so another part of our agency is looking at that issue, and we can speak a little bit about that, but a lot of like the data that we're presenting and the analysis we're sharing is really about risk to people who live nearby. Okay, so I did want to give you a little bit more detail on the national picture. I know Daniel mentioned this in his talk as well. I'm sure you're mostly concerned about Memphis, but sometimes it can be helpful to know sort of how Memphis sits with the rest of the country. So there are about 100 commercial sterilizers in the country. And when we did this analysis, we found that there were 23 of them, which are the blue dots. It's a little hard to see the color on this, but you can see this slide online as well, this map online as well. But the bluer dots are the ones where the highest risk is, and Memphis has one of those highest risk facilities. And I want to end tonight so just the next slide then. Thank you, sorry. I want to end tonight on just a few thoughts on what you might want to think about if you're trying to understand what our conversation about risk and what Caroline's going to share about the model, what that might mean for you personally. When we think about risk at EPA, we think about risk at a population level. So we do our analysis to say if a million people breathed EtO for 70 years. So we make a lot of assumptions and we assume sort of a large number of people are exposed so that we can do our calculations. But as an individual, you want to know, like, what's my risk, right? And so if you're trying to think about it that way, there's sort of three things that you need to know. One is how close are you to the facility, because the closer you are, the risk levels are higher. Two, how much EtO is actually coming out of the facility. And then three, how long have you been exposed, both in how long you've lived near that facility, but also how many hours a day you spend near that facility. And we make some protective assumptions when we do this analysis, but every person's different, so you can sort of think about those things for yourself a little bit. EPA really is focused on this second bullet here, how much, because we believe that if we can get the amounts coming out of these facilities down, then that's the best way to make sure that your communities feel safer. And we're going to continue to work on that issue. But if you want to know about your individual risks, you really have to think about all three of those. With that, I'm going to turn things back to Erin. Thank you.
Thank you, Madeline. I'm going to move that mic over. We had audio issues, which I hope are resolving for our folks online. But we have been talking to y'all for about 25 minutes, so I just want to remind our speakers, we do want to make sure we get to the ability to have a good Q&A
Session, so we'll keep it as tight as we can. Right now, we're going to have Caroline Freeman coming up. Caroline oversees a team of technical experts working on air issues in EPA Region 4 in Atlanta. Caroline works closely with state, tribal, and local governments, like Shelby County Health Department, industry, and others to achieve and maintain clean outdoor air, including reduction of exposures and risks associated with criteria and hazardous air pollutants, like the ethylene oxide risk from the commercial sterilizer in your community. Caroline, I'll turn it to you.
Thank you, Erin, and good evening, everyone. Today I will be sharing information with all of you about the risk that's being proposed right now by ethylene oxide from Sterilization Services of Tennessee here in your community, and the actions that are underway or planned by the Environmental Protection Agency to reduce those risks that are coming from Sterilization Services of Tennessee. With the first slide, I just want to talk to you briefly about, the risk modeling analysis that we did. And between 2021 and 2022, for the most part, EPA scientists collected and analyzed the best information that was available from Sterilization Services of Tennessee. We then worked collaboratively to combine that data with local weather information as well as the location of where the homes are in this community. Using these factors, we at the EPA was able to model the risk from ethylene oxide. And I want to note that, the EPA analysis not only reflects, your potential exposure risk that's related to ethylene oxide from Sterilization Services of Tennessee. Therefore, the risk that I'm sharing information with you about today is an additional or incremental long-term risk on top of any existing conditions within this community. And, so when you think of that, I want you to think of this long-term risk that we're talking about from, individuals developing certain types of cancer from being exposed to ethylene oxide. I will also want to remind you about something that Madeline said when she was speaking, and that is, to estimate the risk from a given chemical, we need to know three things. How toxic that chemical is, first of all, and then we need to know how much of it is in the air and how long throughout a person's life that they may have been exposed to that chemical. Because EPA's analysis must be protective of human health, these estimates are very conservative and are on the high end. What does that mean, you may ask? Well, we assume that people are spending all of their time in the area where the risk is. Specifically, we are assuming that the residents in that community are in that area 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, from birth to age 70, okay? Bottom line, I want you to know that as we are looking at those levels for the most part, I also want you to know that those are definitely not realistic assumptions. Because at some point in time, we all leave our home, okay? And so that's why they're not realistic, but it's better for us to take a conservative approach as opposed to a less conservative approach. These assumptions actually help us to ensure that going forward, we are protecting the most vulnerable, even in the most extreme situations. With the slide on the screen, this is pretty much a boundary map of some streets where the actual modeled risk is for this community surrounding the Sterilization Services facility of Tennessee. And I want to say at the center where the facility is, the impact extends to East Peoples Road, north to South Parkway East, and approximately 200 feet west of the intersection of Interstate 55 and Riverport Road. And the boundary line at the south end is at Lauderdale Street.
Caroline, if it's okay, real quick, we're just gonna make a quick mic adjustment because our folks online are having some issues with the audio. Make sure it's not flashing. Okay,
Mayor, is the battery okay?
I think the battery's okay. Let's turn this just a little closer to you. Great, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Taylor. All right, let's move to the next slide, which is the gradient map. And I want to talk to you briefly about this map that's on the screen. It shows the ethylene oxide risk from Sterilization Services of Tennessee. I also want to preface that we believe that there is elevated risk to people who live closest to Sterilization Services of Tennessee, and I'll explain it to you in more detail in a few seconds. First, let me be clear that there's also potential risk to people who work in this facility and those who work near this facility, and also those that go to school near this facility as well. Now I want to point out to you a few features that are on this map. Okay, the dark orange box that you see behind me on the screen, that's where the actual facility is located itself. All right, that lighter orange area, that is a non-residential, meaning other industrial facilities that are near the Sterilization Services of Tennessee facility. In the blue area includes residential areas where risks are at or above 100 in a million, okay? In the blue area itself, what I want to show you is closer to the facility, that shaded dark blue area, that's where the highest risk is. As you extend out from that dark blue shaded area, the risk becomes less and less until eventually it falls off completely. Although, when you look at that gradient that's laid over the street map, you know, that area is the area that we're focused on at 100 in a million risk. Note that as you move away from the facility, like I said, the blue shading gets lighter, meaning the risk is being lower. There are some certainty in these estimates as both the operations at, you know, this facility and weather can change over time. But these are the best health protective estimates that we have available to us. At the EPA, we are concerned about risk, but we use 100 in a million as our benchmark for identifying whether risk levels are considered high. When we say 100 in a million, what we are really saying is that we estimate ethylene oxide exposure could contribute to an increase of 100 cancer cases if 1 million people were exposed at the concentrated level for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, from birth to age 70. We start our calculations at birth because we want to make sure that we are protective of children. Under the Clean Air Act, we focus on risk where people live. We are also concerned about risk where these workers are working and where others may spend a great deal of their time as well. And that is that light orange area, or the non-residential area that I had referred to earlier. But this analysis that we did and that we're talking about tonight only focused on residential areas. Okay, so with that, I just want you to know that this information is also posted on the EPA website. And it is all based on information that we collected as late as July of this year from this facility. We have worked hand in hand with our co-regulators at Shelby County Department of Health to ensure that that information was correct. And so what we're here tonight is to let you know also that as we receive new data about this facility, we will make that data available on the website for you to have direct access to. In addition to that, we're going to continue to work collaboratively with our co-regulators, Shelby County Department of Health, under Dr. Michelle Taylor's leadership, to ensure that we have the latest information about Sterilization Services of Tennessee in our review of information, and also make that information available to you. Please note that at EPA, we are very, very concerned about the risk that we have identified here in your community. We're switching.
Just made a switch, so I think we're good on that ASM. Thank you.
Okay, just want to make sure that our sign language interpreters are having time to catch up. Okay, let's move to the next slide, please. Next, I'm going to share with you some recent steps that EPA has taken to reduce risk from commercial sterilizers thus far, and how you can get involved. Okay, while we have only fully understood the risk here in Memphis since we completed our work at the end of this past July of this year, we've been working on this issue now for some time. And the EPA has had regulations in place on ethylene oxide emissions from commercial sterilizers for about 30 years. And those regulations fall under the National Emission Standard for Hazardous Air Pollutant for commercial sterilizers, and they were published back in 1996. In 2016, because of updated science, we learned that ethylene oxide was more dangerous when you breathe it in. In 2018, a national level analysis provided an initial indication of which areas might have higher risk, but it wasn't detailed enough either to inform our regulations or to really help communities. And so what we did was went back and collected additional data to learn more about exactly where these risks are located and what solutions are available to prevent these risks. That work took about 2 years, and that's, what brings us to where we are today, to be able to share this information with you. I also want to note that while, the EPA very recently came to know the exact details of potential risk here in Memphis, we understand now that the risk has potentially been occurring in your community for as long as this facility started using ethylene oxide in its process. And Dr. Taylor will talk to you a little bit more about when this facility actually came online and when it started utilizing ethylene oxide in its processes. So to be clear, our risk estimate represents current, not historical conditions, because this is the best information and in some cases the only information that we have available to us. It is also the pertinent information that we need to set regulations going forward. Okay. Where is, this pollution coming from? Well, I want to take, a step back just for a few minutes to explain where the pollution is in fact coming from within the facility, because this information is important to understand how solutions can be put in place to reduce the risk. There are two types of ways that ethylene oxide can leave a facility. The first is that after the ethylene oxide is used to sterilize items for the medical or dental industry, it is sucked into a control system. These systems actually clean ethylene oxide out of the air and capture it or break it down before releasing as much smaller amount into the environment. This type of ethylene oxide coming out of the facility is called controlled emissions. Sterilization Services of Tennessee has controls on several processes at their facility. Their sterilization chamber and the primary aeration rooms are controlled, and those emissions pass through control devices that are required by the state and federal permits, and also the federal regulations that are on the books right now. The second type of ethylene oxide that doesn't get sucked into the control system is the one that we are concerned about tonight. And that is the ethylene oxide emissions that are escaping through other places. And when I said other places, I'm talking about leaks, I'm talking about gaps, even windows, when the materials, our supplies have been treated or sterilized and they're ready to be shipped off-site. When those big roller garage doors go up, we're talking about the emissions that are escaping through those areas. That's the concern that we have tonight. And we refer to those types of emissions as fugitive emissions. Fugitive emissions, unfortunately, are not covered under the current regulation, because when the regulation was written, we did not realize their importance. So at Sterilization Services of Tennessee, the majority of the risk that's coming from these escaping emissions that are of concern to us, that we refer to as fugitive emissions, is quantified right at 86%. Okay, so that's what's driving the risk in this community. Not only that, but we have also evaluated how we can best reduce this risk. And the best solution to reducing this risk is to reduce the amount of currently not regulated ethylene oxide fugitive emissions that is coming out of this facility. Unfortunately, there are not many actions that you personally can take to reduce risk, okay? Because this isn't a chemical that you can easily remove with a home filter or completely reduce your risk by staying inside. As a matter of fact, spending less time near the facility would in fact reduce your risk. But again, the best solution is to reduce the amount of ethylene oxide that is coming from this facility. We've also learned through our work that ethylene oxide is not a chemical that lasts for a long time in the environment. This means that reducing the amount of ethylene oxide that's coming out of this facility will also reduce risk to the neighboring community right away. As I get ready to wind up a little bit, I just want to talk to you about what to expect next, and also what you can see, will see coming from EPA, and how you can become involved in the process. First, EPA has taken action to reduce the amount of ethylene oxide that's coming from this facility and others like it. At the EPA, we are currently updating the air pollution regulation that limits how much of this chemical commercial sterilizers, like Sterilization Services of Tennessee, can put in the air. The EPA also expects to propose the.
Carolyn, let me take a quick, sorry to interrupt, we're just, our ASL interpreters are switching, here. We can have just a second to get those repenned, the folks in the room. Great, thanks.
Are we ready? Okay. Second, the EPA expects to propose the updated air regulation in the coming months. At that time, there will be a public comment period, and the public comment period normally lasts anywhere between 60 to 90 days when we're talking about a major air pollution regulation such as this one. That is where you can actually utilize the opportunity to voice your concerns about that law. I realize that regulations are very complex. And so with that being the case, when the proposed rule comes out, I personally will work with my team in Atlanta as well as with my co-regulators here in Shelby County to ensure that we prepare a summary of what the proposed rule calls for. And we will come back to Memphis and meet with you all again and walk you through what the proposed regulations are actually covering. And explain to you the difference between the current regulations that are on the book and the new regulations that EPA is moving forward. As I said earlier, we're also working with our federal, state, and local partners, as well as trying to intervene with these facilities as well as others around the country that have been identified with the highest risk, to see if in the interim we can get these facilities to take some interim steps until the rule is finalized to reduce these risks. Not only that, but we're also concerned about the risk to the workers at these facilities and the people who work near those facilities and go to school in those areas as well. And that is why EPA is also working on a worker exposure rule under another federal law and intends to take action on that rule as well. I will say that when it comes to occupational exposure, please feel free to reach out to the Tennessee Occupational Safety Health Administration, as Tennessee OSHA is available to address occupational exposure in the workplace. Questions? With that being said, I'm going to wrap up now because I know it's getting late. And I do want to provide an opportunity for you all to ask any additional questions that you have so that we can make ourselves available to you to answer those questions. But before I close, I want to also leave you with 3 things. And that is, EPA has learned that ethylene oxide is causing a risk in your community. Second of all, we are working to reduce this risk by working across government and with our co-regulators, specifically with Shelby County Health Department, to reduce risk to ethylene oxide coming from Sterilization Services of Tennessee. Not only that, but we are strengthening 2 sets of regulations to be more protective of public health, and we're also sharing these risks with you so that you will have the same information that we have available to us. Okay, so with that being the case, as I prepare to close, I must say, as my regional administrator came before you earlier and said, we are committed to continuing to work on this issue until these risk levels are reduced. And as the EPA Air Director for the Southeast region, I too take this issue to be extremely serious. And I am going to continue to work with my staff to make sure that the latest information is available to you on our website. I will make sure that that website is up to date. And as I said, we will be back to walk you through what the proposed regulations cover within the coming months when those rules are available. Thank you so very much for your time and attention this evening. And I'll turn the meeting back over to Erin Jones.
Thank you, Caroline. We would now like to turn it over to Dr. Michelle Taylor. She's the director of the Shelby County Health Department. The Shelby County Health Department is the permitting authority for the facility for Sterilization Services of Tennessee. Dr. Taylor is going to share more information with us at this time. Dr. Taylor?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It is good to see so many of you out and engaged. I'm going to give you just a brief local perspective on Sterilization Services of Tennessee, but I'm not going to be up here long because we definitely want to hear from you. So, next slide. Sterilization Services of Tennessee began operations in Memphis in 1976. And ethylene oxide has been in use in that facility since at least 1979. The facility has been permitted since 1985, and this is an important point, the facility has been in compliance with the EPA's current rules and regulations regarding ethylene oxide. This facility has been in compliance. Next slide. The facility has 8 employees. It operates 24 hours per day, 7 days per week, and it provides sterilization of medical instruments for hospitals, clinics, surgical centers, dental offices, etc. Next slide. So what is the Shelby County Health Department doing directly to partner with the EPA in reducing risk? One of the things that we have initiated is a cancer incidence study, and I misspoke in the earlier meeting. What a cancer incidence study does, it looks at everybody who has been diagnosed with cancer in the affected area in a certain time period. In this case, we partnered with the Tennessee Department of Health to look at the cancer registry and look at folks who were diagnosed with cancer between 2010 and 2019, and we're going to compare it with a comparison group in another part of the county to see if the folks in the area around the facility had a higher risk of developing cancer during that period. The reason why we do these types of studies is to really give us more answers about what's going on with the health risks of the community, and we are very concerned about that. Next slide. So I'll leave you with a few community resources that are available. Please understand that this is not an exhaustive list. There are more. I know that many of you all have a primary care provider or a clinic that you go to, but these are some of the specific community resources that are available, including our Shelby County Health Department Tennessee Breast and Cervical Screening Program, along with services at Christ Community and mobile mammography units at Baptist and Methodist, and the phone numbers are posted there. Once again, this is not an exhaustive list, and we at the Shelby County Health Department have already started to reach out to our hospital partners and provider partners to make sure that we're bringing those services to the community. The last thing I'd like to do is recognize that we do have one of our elected officials in the room, City Councilman Edmund Ford Sr. Thank you for being here. As a community member myself, I understand how scary this is. I understand how disconcerting this is. I understand that it is never easy to hear this kind of risk, but I will also tell you that what I've always told you, the Shelby County Health Department is here to answer questions in the weeks and months ahead, because we know this is hard information to swallow, but we're here with our partners at the EPA to make sure that we can not only reduce the risk, but also answer all the questions that you have and connect you to the resources that you need so that we can get through this period. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. So we know that that was a lot of information, and we would now like to take any questions that you may have. Next to me, Taylor Gillespie from EPA headquarters is helping me make sure that our online participants can have their questions addressed, but right now we don't have any in the queue. So we're going to start with questions in the room. If you could make your way to the microphone
This is the center aisle. We need to make sure everyone can hear your question, both here in the room and online. So if y'all can kind of form a line there, feel free to bring us the first question of the evening. On the panel, we are gonna have Madeline Beal, Caroline Freeman, and Dr. Michelle Taylor that you all have already heard from. And additionally, virtually, we are going to have Dr. Michelle Ziegler from the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, so the federal health agency. She'll be available virtually for this Q&A panel. At this time, I'm gonna turn it over to the first question unless there's an announcement from Kate.
Just really quick, if you got one of those question cards and you don't want to come to the microphone, that is absolutely an option. Just, you're gonna walk around and grab them, but just raise your hand. Also, if you didn't get one of those question cards, and you want to write down a question, we're gonna get those as well and ask questions that way. And I just want to double check that these mics are on. Laura, I think you checked them. They're all good. So Miss Maxine, we'll turn to you.
It was stated that ethylene oxide is high in Memphis. And if it's high in Memphis, I want to know, is there a device that can be put on the streets that's affected, and we can get a recording, if not daily, weekly? Is there a device, do you all have a device that you can put on the streets to monitor the residents that's being affected?
Sure, I'll try to start, but I don't know if the local folks in Carolina has stuff to add, but so what you're talking about is an air monitor, and unfortunately, EtO is really hard to monitor for, so it's not like something like PM 2.5, so like if you see like those little air monitors that tend to be put lots of different places, that's a much easier thing to monitor for. The nature of the chemical itself makes it very hard to measure. So we can measure it at high levels, but unfortunately, community members like yourself, we hear this a lot, that you want a monitor in your neighborhood to tell you you're safe.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, the science, we cannot monitor EtO at levels that we feel like are safe. And so the best we do is modeling, because it helps us understand for a community like area what we think the risk is. But monitoring studies are important, but we can't provide the thing that you want right now just from a scientific perspective. We understand that this is a need, though, and so EPA also has an Office of Research and Development, and we are spending money. We are spending a lot of scientific resources to try to get better at this. We're working with companies that do air monitoring to try to push them to get better at this. But it's not an easy thing, because there's not a good solution for what you're asking for, but I want to be able to give it to you.
Okay, one more question. Is it possible that the adults and the children can be tested periodically? Because this is dangerous, it's high here in Memphis, and it's serious. I mean, I tried to get so many people to come to the meeting with me. I don't feel well.
Yeah.
I don't feel well. There's reasons for that.
Yeah.
This is serious business.
Absolutely.
I mean, what are we gonna do? Are we all just gonna die? I mean, is there any way that maybe you can get the churches to get volunteers to be involved to test us periodically? We
Maybe
want to live a
ATSDR.
long life. I'm 83 years old.
Michelle can
And I
answer
want
the
to live a
testing.
long life, because God ain't through with me yet. I got plenty I gotta do.
So we do I can let you speak, Dr. Taylor, but we do also have ATSDR virtually, if we want to put it to Michelle, Dr. Michelle Ziegler too, if y'all want to go tag team this.
I can let Dr. Ziegler go first, and then
Okay.
I'll answer.
If we can pin Dr. Ziegler here and get her audio going.
Can you all hear me okay? Are you all able to hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, great, okay. Well, I just want to take a minute and just say thank you for allowing me to be part of this meeting tonight. And my apologies that I am not able to be there in person. I'm a little under the weather, so thought best not to put anybody at risk of getting exposed. And so The question about testing is a really important one, and I believe it's Ms. Maxine that's up at the microphone. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Maxine, I'm Dr. Ziegler and I work with ATSDR, and so I'm a public health physician who's been involved with our agency in ethylene oxide. And though there are a couple of different types of tests, so ethylene oxide can be measured in the blood and it can be measured in the air that we breathe out, but it's so short-lived that it basically dissipates very quickly. And so the measurements aren't of value for a long-term exposure. There is another type of test that ATSDR is looking at. We're exploring really the usefulness of this particular test that's been used in a worker population who are exposed to very high levels of ethylene oxide. But we're looking at the possibility, sort of the pros and the cons and the challenges with this particular test and using it in a community setting where the levels of exposure may be lower. The challenge with this particular test, and it's called hemoglobin adducts of ethylene oxide, it is another blood test. The challenge comes with interpreting the test because it basically is an indication of exposure of ethylene oxide from all sources. And so it wouldn't be just the sterilization facility, it could be ethylene oxide as a result of motor vehicle exhaust, or from active or passive exposure to cigarette smoke. That's a well-known exposure for ethylene oxide. The other thing is a small amount of ethylene oxide is made in the body as a result of natural processes. And so there are some challenges to this particular type of testing, but we are exploring if this test could be used in a community setting. So it's a great question and really great thoughts. And so I wish I could offer you more as far as, intermittent testing for community members, but we're not quite there.
Miss Maxine, if I could, before you leave the microphone, first, I don't believe God is done with any of us yet, because we wouldn't be here if he was done with any of us. So I'm glad to hear that he's not done with you. Second, I understand your concern. I understand how scary this is. It is always scary to hear this type of information. And it's definitely scary when you're worried not only about yourself, but your loved ones and your neighbors. We get it. So the good thing about Memphis and Shelby County is we have an excellent hospital system. Not every community can say that, but we do. And I will tell you that our hospital partners are already on board to help, to try to screen residents, to try to do all of the things and bring all of the services to bear that we have capability to bear, to make sure that we are allaying some of these fears and catching things early. We know that if folks have these risks, but they can get an early diagnosis, it really does improve survival as well. And so please bear with us, but please know that Shelby County Health Department is here, and we have plenty of partners in the community who are ready to bring those services to the community.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Maxine. We'll take the next question. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Carolyn Langston, and I have a question for you concerning the study that you did. You said that your study is from 2010 to 2019. I question if that's a long enough sampling of time. I grew up in that neighborhood. I could stand in my backyard and throw a rock and probably hit that building. In my neighborhood, myself, I've had breast cancer, and I've had 8 people in my neighborhood that died from cancer. What a coincidence to be that close to it. So why is it that that study is, I feel like you could possibly get a false positive because you didn't go back far enough. It looks as though, and we can appreciate that you're taking steps to take care of the future. And that's great, so that no other children or people will be affected by it. But to have the study already say, if you, it pretty much wouldn't bother you unless you stayed over here between birth and 70. But I was there in 76, and I lived there. I was born in 70, was there in 76, 79 when it started, and stayed there for many, many years. That affected a lot of us in that neighborhood that were there, going by there, going to the store, just standing out, just living in the neighborhood. I'm hoping that you will look back closer at that data as well, because I know that they don't want what most people would probably be thinking, well, it's affected our people, why aren't they doing something about it? They're gonna protect themselves, they don't want lawsuits, that's understandable, but that stuff affected us. So please don't look at it just for the future, but look back at how it affected us, because some of us lost parents, I lost my father, but we just wanna make sure that you have looked back and taken all of that into consideration.
So first, I want to pause and say that I'm so glad that you are surviving with breast cancer. I think we need to acknowledge that.
Thank you.
Second, I hear you. My family is from that area too. A lot of people don't know that. My grandparents owned homes in that area. I still have family that lives there. Before we moved to Memphis full-time, I would visit my grandparents and my great-grandparents in that area. So I get it. And I was born in 1975. I understand, okay? When we do studies, when we start to do studies, what you have to understand is we don't do one study and then stop, okay? But we want to do this one first because we want to look at that period of time. And once we look at that period of time and see what that shows, then you do the next block of time. We use information from something called the Cancer Registry. And whenever we have to do a study like that, it's important that we partner with the state, because the State Department of Health is who controls the Cancer Registry and controls how much information we can get at a time. Now, I will tell you that the state has been very cooperative. So I anticipate that this will just be the beginning of the things that we're looking at. I know a lot of people in this audience think I only know how to talk about COVID, right? But I will tell you that at the Shelby County Health Department, we believe in a data-driven approach. So this is the beginning. This is not the beginning and the end. What we want to do is to start to inform the community and to do it in steps so that everybody understands what has happened in the immediate and the history of what has happened in that community. And I just thank you. As a fellow breast cancer survivor, I get it. I get it. One of the hardest things to hear is that you have a diagnosis, and even harder to hear when somebody that you love has a diagnosis. And I've experienced that as well. So please, please know that we are here for you. I hear you. My team is here. They hear you. And when I say my team, a lot from across the health department, the folks who crunch the data, the folks who deal with the people who do the permitting, all of that. We have a group of dedicated public health professionals who go out every day to do any number of public health tasks with the ultimate goal of protecting and improving health in Shelby County. And that will continue.
Could I add one thing from the EPA perspective too, because our mission is to protect health, and so while a cancer cluster study like this is very important for us to understand risk and what it means in communities, we're not going to wait for that study, right? We're going to work to get these risks reduced before we have that data, because we need that.
We appreciate just wanted to make sure that we weren't just having that small sampling. And the fact that if you look at only the people that live in that vicinity now, in that area now, I grew up in it, I moved away, that doesn't mean that that health issue didn't follow me. So I'm hoping that they're really, taking all that into consideration. And that's me putting my black belt hat on with the statistics.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Good question.
Thank you. We'll take the next question in the room.
My name is Wanda Walker, and I live across the street from another sterilization facility here in Memphis at 245 South Camilla Street, 38104 zip code. And I live across the street in City Towers, a high-rise for seniors. And on my floor alone, on the 5th floor, on my end, there's 8 apartments on the south end and 8 on the north end. 4 ladies out of the 8 apartments where I live have come down, 3 of them with breast cancer and 1 of them with the lymph node blood cancer. And that's 50% of the people just on my floor. Every morning that place is open, I wake up with bad congestion and have to take Allegra and Benadryl. And then I don't even feel like getting out of the bed. I'm so groggy from the Benadryl. But the days that it's closed, I don't have those sinus problems. And I've heard a lot about how dangerous it is. And respectfully, I haven't really heard a lot of solutions or a lot of options for solutions. Like the people around this geographical area, what are their solution options? Are they all gonna have to move and sell their property? Or is the place gonna relocate? And I appreciate y'all coming. I've been 3 years where I'm at in City Towers, and these people have come down with cancer in the last year and a half. It had taken them a lifetime. And this ethanol stuff is so thick in the air, you can see waves of it in the air above the facility. And with all due respect, I don't mean to be rude or difficult, but can I hear some solutions, maybe?
Do you want to speak to some control solutions?
Thank you very much, first of all, Ms. Wanda, for that question. What I will say is this: when you talk about solutions, EPA is already working collectively across the board as expeditiously as possible to put out more strengthened and stronger regulations. Now, the regulations that I mentioned earlier that we have in place to address these emissions that are coming from these facilities, unfortunately, when we put those regulations out, we were not aware of of ethylene oxide and how toxic it is. We recently learned of that information, and not only that, but the facility that you mentioned at 245 South Camilla, that one was not on our radar, but I will do my best to double check that facility as early as tomorrow in partnership with my co-regulator sitting at this table, Dr. Taylor, who is the director for the Shelby County Department of Health. So we will take a close look at that facility, and I don't like speaking about a facility when I haven't done my homework. But I will say that one of the things that we are doing is moving forward with strengthened regulations, where the strengthened regulations will require these existing facilities, not only the ones that showed up as high-risk facilities, but all commercial sterilizers, to put on additional control technology if they don't have the required technology on their operations that the agency will be requiring in the proposed regulations. Now, what are those additional requirements? I cannot speak to those tonight simply because I have not seen the proposed rule. But once that proposed rule comes out in the next couple of months, we will comb through it line by line, and we're gonna summarize it and come back to you and tell you what's going to be the requirement. For any facility that's coming to the table to open your doors to be a commercial sterilizer, after that, they will have to comply with those regulations immediately. For the existing facilities, and that will be Sterilization Services of Tennessee, I can't speak yet to the facility that you talked about on South Camilla, because like I said, I haven't done my homework on that facility as of yet. But if that facility falls within that umbrella and it's an existing commercial sterilizer, then that facility will have a compliance period once the rule is final under the Clean Air Act, because this is already guidance and regulatory requirements that are already set in stone. But EPA is taking comments on this issue that I'm about to share with you, and that is the compliance timeframe. Once a rule is finalized before the facility that's operating already has to come into compliance is about 3 years. One of the things that we're asking for in the review of the proposed rule is that the public take a look at that time frame and comment on it. We want to hear from you, because the ultimate goal is to work collaboratively as a team to reduce that time frame for compliance. And so that's one of the things that is available to us. We're not taking this issue lightly. Normally, EPA do not even go before a community until the rules are proposed. That's the standard process. We have stepped out of bounds and intentionally in this particular situation to work with the community on the front end to help you to understand what the issue is, and also share with you where the weaknesses are in the existing regulation, so you'll know on the front end as we move forward to address those things in the upcoming rule that will be proposed for the public review, as well as my review in the coming months.
And are there other sterilization facilities here in Shelby County that use ethanol?
Here in Shelby County, I'm not 100% sure, so I'm going to have to defer to Dr. Taylor.
There are no other facilities that use ethylene oxide in Shelby County.
Then maybe we could, no other commercial sterilization facilities or none at all?
There are no other commercial sterilizers in Shelby County. No, ma'am.
Just the one across the street from me, and then the one in this neighborhood that you're talking about?
Just like Ms. Freeman said, we'll have to check that because they may be in a different category, but we will definitely get that information for you.
Thank you for your question. I want to make sure we can follow up with you. So if you can check in with Daphne in the back. She's got the note card. She's waving them in the air.
Mm-hmm.
But we want to be able to follow up with you and make sure we
Okay.
can reach back out to you. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Next question in the room.
My name is Adrian Moore. Thank you for coming. Ms. Taylor, Ms. Freeman, Ms. Dale, Johnson, everybody that came out. Did I get your names correct?
Yes, sir, you did.
Thank you. Now, thank you for coming. Councilman, thank you for coming out. I was looking for someone this morning. Not alone.
We had council today. Y'all had it on council day.
Every other Tuesday.
Well, y'all, we kind of changed, we did it back to back. Yeah, so we usually we look at it every first and third, we did it back to back.
Okay, thank you. Now, I'd like to know, did you guys invite any representatives of the company to attend this meeting, and if so, why did they come? They give you a reason why they.
So we wanted to make this meeting about our risk analysis, and so we didn't invite them to speak at this meeting, but they were aware.
Oh, we have questions.
Yeah, and I don't know if we have any representatives from the company here, I can ask before
So this, this compliance for existing companies, you said, I think you just said that we should question that 3 years, 2 or 3 years. That's what I'm doing now. We don't want it to take that long for them to comply. They've been here all these years, contaminating our community, and now you're gonna tell us that they need 3 more years to do that to us and our children, our families? No, we want them to either move immediately, shut down. I was watching a movie, bear with me, and it said, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. 8 people work at this facility. 8 people. Shut it down. Build it somewhere else. Why do they have to build all of these contaminated facilities in our community? It's time for that to change. The before me, she said that they're doing it somewhere else too, and she wanted solutions. You keep going around the solutions. We know the solution is in the future. One prior to her, we told her, but we need something done now. Yes. Now. And I don't want you to juggle this and play with words. We've been listening to you. You guys came here for a good reason. But it's still about capital. Because for some reason, that little bitty facility that's killing us must have a lot of money. Are they paying somebody extremely well? Because we can't keep dying just for some people. I mean, money ain't worth nothing if don't nobody need it. And we didn't need it during the pandemic. We needed food. Them people, they wanted that money. What would they do with it? They ain't got nothing but food. They weren't even buying no shoes and clothes. No, they had to eat. We don't need nothing but a solution to the problem. You need to just move the facility, shut it down, and build it somewhere else. And from now on, you can build a facility. Somebody said this morning, that's for your legislators. We need them from now on to have them put it somewhere where it's least that's populated. Okay? And it'll be okay. We know we need these companies. They need them jobs, but they don't need to be in our community. And I don't want to sound, but if you're gonna put them in our neighborhood, put them in everybody's neighborhood. In an equal amount. Otherwise, where there's not the least populated neighborhoods. That's what you guys should work on.
Mr. Ward, thank you very much for that question, and thank you for your statements. And I carry your sentiments deeply, okay? And I want you to know that. And I must say, you know, what you mentioned, and we talked about this briefly this morning, this is a zoning issue. And so as far as where these facilities are placed and, you know, and allowed to, you know, actually be constructed. So that is a local issue, and I really don't have the authority to speak on that, but what I do have. Yes.
Me and him go way back because he used to be on the city council a while back. Visit all the time. I don't remember me, but he go way back. He
heard you. Okay.
Is that not correct? You don't talk to him about that. Because back in the day, it wasn't many that could change that zone and stuff, but now you can change that. Do something about it. No excuses, but thank you so much.
Most definitely. Thank you also, Mr. Ward. One thing I will say also, Ms. Wanda, is she still here? Or did she leave? Okay, I think we have some information about Ms. Wanda. Hi, the facility that you inquired about, that's located on 245 South Camilla. Dr. Taylor, would you like to share with her what you?
Yes, ma'am. So that is not a commercial sterilizer. It's actually a laundry facility across from you. Yes, ma'am. So, like I said, my team is here and we're on it. We will definitely be checking into that facility, but we wanted you to know that it is not a commercial sterilizer. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Miss Wanda, we're gonna check into it.
Good evening. So I really can sit down because Ms. Andre addressed several things, but first, your name says U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. My thing is, you made a statement and you said that you guys are stepping out of bounds. Your objective is to protect health. I want to know, why do we always, and I'm exhausted, I go to so many of these in our community, I'm exhausted. Why is it always after the fact? If you're the protection agency, why isn't it before the facilities are built? Why isn't it before communities are introduced? I don't understand why we always, why is put on the responsibilities of the residents to see about their health, and people are getting paid who's supposed to protect us, who's supposed to say, no, you can't build a facility where all these people live. That makes no sense to me, and you know, it is emotional. You said your study would be 2000 something to 2019. My mom, that was the time my mom was diagnosed and passed. So it seems to me the data that's being discussed and observed is the aftermath. The people who are no longer here, the people who have already died, it's just always coming up the rear. Instead of being proactive and saying, okay, there's nobody living in this community, why don't you build here? But people are living there. My mom went back and forth to work. You're saying be there 75 years, but in inhaling anything, we know the different smells in our community. And this is not normal. That yellow area, what industrial area do people work in those areas? That's right there. Those we don't have anything but warehouses that sell distribution. That's what Memphis is. So the people are coming back and forth, so they are impacted, not just that little facility with 8 people. I'm glad to see you. So first I want to thank you, saying Mr. Regan, y'all got environmental justice. Sounds wonderful, and I hope we can start somewhere now. But I wanted to say and have this on record. I don't know who doing questions and will come back to me. But you said early diagnosis is better. You can get a survival rate. Again, that's on us. That we have to go and see this instead of saying, no, you can't be in a residential area. You said the blue dots are the highest risk. On the map, it was 111 facilities. I would like to know where those facilities are located.
what's the demographic of those areas? Because I'm sure they probably represent the same community that's over here. You said people who are impacted are those who live, work near, work at, or near a school. So those are the elderly, the children, and all of them. Coming and going, trying to play outside, doing whatever, they may possibly be impacted now and later. And so we, like the young lady said that had breast cancer, you don't know how many people who have already been impacted. So my thing is, my same sentiments with him, 8 people, 8, shut that down. Shut that down. That's ridiculous. That's, and now I'm so upset because I'm like, why y'all coming now? How long, you know?
Since 1970.
Like, so why is it such a thing now? Is it just, we just found out about this? Because that's a long time. That's as long as I've been living.
So if I can do this, just for the sake of time, you have about 4 questions.
Yes.
And I'd like to answer them. Is
Okay.
there any more pressing question that you want to ask that I can add? You can stand here while I answer your questions.
Pressing, I would like for your division, your company, EPA, to be more vigilant about being proactive and reactive. Then before they get approvals by city council people and everyone else, that they have to, you have to be able to say, that's a threat to the residents and woo. They have to come to you, you guys have to agree on that. That way we won't be always coming to this on the backs of people and residents who have invested in their homes.
Okay, so first and foremost, I want to thank you. We hear the pain in your voice and everything that you're saying. Many of us, regardless of our titles, come from communities that are struggling with this. And to your question about the blue dots, the data shows that the majority of the impacted areas, we're not just talking about on this issue, are in zip codes and communities with high Black and brown populations, poor communities. It is from Appalachia to Jackson, Mississippi, to Lowndes County, Alabama, to Memphis, Tennessee. It's consistent. And what I will say to you without over-promising is that administrations matter. You asked why is it now an issue for us and a concern, because there's an administration, and I'm not saying that anyone is perfect, but to have Michael Regan and myself, who are both the first Black men in our roles, we're both HBCU grads, we're committed to the issue. I will not stand here and overpromise and undercommit, overpromise and underperform. I cannot tell you that 3 administrations from now, this is going to be the priority it is today. What I can tell you is people that are here, like Caroline Freeman and my staff that's here, Brian Holsclaw. I don't want to name folks because I don't want to miss out on them. Well beyond my service to EPA, which is at the liberty of the president. When the president is gone, there is very likely there could be a new regional administrator. My priority right now and today is to be here and be present and to build an agency that is resilient beyond a regional administrator and beyond the administration. If we want to fix this issue, we have to think of it 10 years from now and not just tomorrow. And this issue gets corrected and solved when it becomes not just a priority, but a commitment, and a commitment that is on paper. But the reality of it is, I get on a plane in the morning. I don't live where you live, right? So we have to make sure that beyond our conversations and being present, there's a follow-up. So the one thing that I will say is that information that is there goes directly to my office. I have, at the very minimum, an additional 2.5 years to continue to focus on this issue. We are inviting you all to consistently be in touch with us, to work with Shelby County, to call my air and radiation division. That is something we're going to be committed to, and not just, as I mentioned earlier, to check a box, but we're here, right? And I want to, without being disingenuous to anyone in the room, it takes a lot for us to come here, and it's not that we're doing you any favors. The fact that we're showing up, knowing what we're walking into, knowing the concerns and the frustration. I have an aunt that was diagnosed with cancer. I have family members that have died from cancer. So we all share that pain and we recognize it. And the 3 things that I want to close with on that response is, number 1, that is exactly why on September 24th, Administrator Regan created the Office of Environmental Justice, so that we can combine external civil rights and environmental justice and not do them separate, so that when we see issues that merit civil rights concerns, that we are not, to Carolyn's point, we're not a zoning agency, right? And that's not to deflect, it's to basically say there's a process. And our job is to work with state agencies to identify where we can be helpful, where we can inform, where we can educate, but going forward, how we can make sure that your air, your land, and your water is protected. You mentioned another portion, and I want to just give it real quick about being more vigilant, right? And I agree with you 1,000%. I think the biggest thing that needs to happen in being more vigilant is for us to be able to know who's not in this room that we need to have more conversation about, right? In our communities, repetition matters. We can't just come one night or one day and have 2 meetings. We've got to figure out, how do we make this room go from 100 to 300 to 1,000? And how do we make that consistent, and how do we hold organizations accountable? One thing that I will say really quickly, and then I have to stop because we have a lot of questions, including online. One thing that I would encourage everyone to learn about that's a little separate from this conversation is the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, the American Recovery Act, and the Inflation Reduction Act, all right? There's the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, the Inflation Reduction Act, and the American Recovery Plan. The reason why I'm bringing those up is because, for example, in the Inflation Reduction Act, each state will be allocated resources to be able to address some of these issues and concerns. Doesn't mean we're going to solve the problems, but in the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, for example, we mentioned policy. 40% of the federal funding for the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law goes towards what's called the Justice 40 Initiative, which means we have to allocate 40% of funding, right, to these communities. Now, to be fair, everything is not going to lie under that purview, but what you don't know, you can't hold your elected officials accountable for. What I would encourage you all to do is, after tonight, go onto our website. Caroline and I will share our information. We'll send links that show you what's available through EPA, but through other agencies as well. And know what to go, when you're weaponized with information, you can go into a zoning meeting, you can go into a city council meeting, you can meet with your congressional delegation. When you know what information and resources are available, it's helpful. So again, that's not an excuse, it's us being willing to work with you all consistently, to show up in places like this. It's not easy to be in, but we're here because we understand there's a conversation that needs to be had, but more than anything else, there's an action that needs to be taken and results that have to happen, and we are very much committed to it. So what I'll do is I'll give you my personal information. I'll make sure you have it, but as it was mentioned earlier, this is not the last time we're going to be here. I've been listening, I didn't leave, but I wanted to make sure that I came to answer that question specifically, because this is going to be an ongoing effort with my region, and as long as I'm a regional administrator here, not only will this be a priority, but public comment, information, hearings, and engagement is going to be something that we measure our own leadership on based upon how we can respond, but also work with you all consistently, okay? So I have to leave it there. I do appreciate it, but I hear you, and every person's voice in here matters, and I have a meeting every week with our senior executive staff in DC, which includes headquarters and the White House. They ask us regularly, what's going on in Region 4? What's going on in Region 1? What are they talking about in Memphis and in Jackson, Mississippi? They're very aware of where we are, because we understand that these concerns have persisted, not just for decades, but for generations, and our goal is to help to change that narrative, and we're going to work very hard to do so. Okay?
Speak, everyone. The only thing I'm gonna say is, in 20 years, I think we'll be back here, because TVA is bringing dump trucks of coal ash into the same neighborhood. So I'm just saying, if you can be proactive in the EPA get in front of things like that, we won't have to have it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Marquita Bradshaw. I'm gonna try not to get to making a big statement, but these neighborhoods are historically underrepresented, historically fence line, cumulative impact communities. What are the cumulative impacts that's going on in these communities along these states? Because that's what's missing right now. And it is a huge factor when you have a large portion of people having health effects that are cumulative from all of the chemicals that we are exposed to because of years of industrialization. years of redlining, and Black people being not able to build wealth because they're sick. Now, we talked about 2 chronic issues, right, of this chemical. But those are not the only ones. Why are you not educating people about the acute, instant exposure to these chemicals and also the other chronic issues that can come from these chemicals? Because it'll make people understand that some of these things mimic some of the COVID symptoms in these communities. Fatigue, diarrhea, headaches. And people can be experiencing these things and isolating and not going to the doctor to actually get tested, having breathing problems, unexplained breathing problems. And they don't have the information to get tested for acute exposure, especially at the elementary. What are you doing to educate our school board commissioners and our teachers about the effects that this has on the educational environment?
Thank you for that question.
And also, we have to also understand that this chemical has reproductive issues also that happens. And so when you have high maternal morbidity in this area, maternal health, and also the congenital birth defects and different things like that, people have been experiencing. My mother has kidney failure, and she is right outside of this area. And so just a little bit of this, along with her kidney failure, can make her experience diarrhea, fatigue, where she's not able to walk. But how are we supposed to know if you're not properly educating people about all of the acute symptoms? And because that fact sheet does not break it down in that kind of fashion. And some people have different body burdens. So the acute exposure could actually mean death. And so I don't want people to think that it's going to take 20, 30 years to get some type of effect from this.
So, I want to acknowledge a lot of what you said about cumulative risk, and perhaps Daniel will want to speak to this too. I think one of the challenges at EPA is historically, and the laws that we have tend to allow us to regulate chemical by chemical. And so that is a big part of why we do the analysis as we do it, focused on one single chemical and the risk that we see from that chemical. But we know, we're deeply aware that that's not how it works in people's lives, and that it is not a coincidence that many of these sources of risk.
But that little orange dot right there,
Those
little orange dots, those are all industries.
Yeah.
And all of those industries have permits to pollute. And so for you to not have cumulative data, and you know that there's a cumulative effect, it's inefficient and it's not effective when you're talking about protecting human health.
Yep, and it is a big part of why the administrator, I think it is trying to take us in this new direction, because there is this awareness that this is a gap, right, in the way that our laws have governed this. And unfortunately, EPA has to follow the law too. So we have to, like, when we try to reduce risk, when we try to change things at facilities, we have to use the laws that we have. But we understand this gap. I see Daniel standing up, so that's very good.
Before I give an answer, I saw you were looking over. Do you want to say something?
I can, but
Okay.
I'll
No,
let you.
I can wait.
Okay.
I have a response for what you asked.
So you're exactly right. Cumulative risk is very important. We understand that that's what's going on in the community. I think somebody else said it, but you said it as well, very well, that historically, these communities have been adversely affected and overwhelmingly affected by a lot of the industries that are in those communities. But like my colleagues here have said, we also have to stay within the law. So yes, a lot of these folks are permitted to have certain levels of emissions going into the air, And we have to follow the laws of the land in those permits. We follow the regulations that are put out by the EPA. I know that that is no consolation when you have people around you who are ill and not feeling well. But the other thing that I am encouraged by, and I haven't been in years past, because I grew up here too, I understand. The thing that I'm encouraged by is what the folks here from the EPA have said. One, they're here. And we all know that a lot of times, we wouldn't have anybody sitting here talking to us. We would be lucky if they were on the screen talking to us. That's one, okay? They're here willingly, they're answering or trying to answer some very hard questions that really science hasn't kept up with the number of questions that you all have. Once again, not a consolation. Two, we know that as of right now, this is the moment where all of you all should be continuing to be engaged. Turn the frustration into action. Community comments are taken into account by certain administrations. I believe this is one of those. This is one of those moments where we really can make a difference in our community in a unique way that we haven't been able to do in years past. So the fact that all of you all are here today is a testament to how much you care about the community, but it also, I believe, will lead to direct action from the highest levels. And I don't believe it's gonna take 20 years to do it.
And I need one question from you, is resources for people who do not have health insurance.
Absolutely.
To be able to get tested.
So, as I shared earlier, we are already working with all of our hospital partners in deep conversations about the number of resources that we will be able to bring to bear. We know that there are a lot of people in our community who are either uninsured or underinsured. Don't forget about that. So we have a lot of people, and a lot of that also has to do with what's going on at the state level. The fact that we are not a Medicaid expansion state. Don't get me started on that, okay? So we have a lot of people who are uninsured or underinsured, and we understand that we really have to push our hospital partners. Say, listen, you know we have this community here. Let's go to them and make sure that we're bringing the resources that they need. And I am making that commitment tonight, and I've been making that commitment to say, Shelby County Health Department is going to make sure that that happens. Because we understand, we work with the population mostly that is uninsured and underinsured. So we have experience doing it, and now we're going to bring other partners to the table to make sure that they're helping us move that along.
So I'll say really briefly, and again, I want to be respectful of the line of questions we have. One thing that I think should be promising to everyone in this room is the language that's being used, right? I mean, it's very easy for us, you know, I have a civil rights background. You know, I come from a space working with the civil rights community where we have gone into rooms against big utility companies and have had to have conversations and deal with policies and answers that don't always lead to a solution. But when you have an agency that is using phrases like environmental racism exists, right? I mean, that is a huge step in the federal government where we're actually acknowledging things. And I really, really want to place an emphasis, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not trying to just, whitewash the conversation. This Office of Environmental Justice is the first step of, I believe, reversing a lot of generational challenges. We'll have over 200 individuals dedicated to the office with a massive amount of investment. And this is not going to happen without the dialogue that we're having here. And what I want to say to you about some of the things you brought up really, really quickly, when it was mentioned about permits and regulations, I'm in my mid-40s. I remember and have seen, not just with Hurricane Katrina, but the petrochemical industry, and you look at what happened with Flint, Michigan, and all these challenges within our lifetime. We're now creating policies based on what we've learned from these industries, and we're doing things in the industry, in our agency now, such as on the enforcement side. I'm not going to call any administration by name, but if you go down the list and and you look at where enforcement is in this administration versus the previous administration, we're doing things that are making a lot of our state partners uncomfortable and upset. And it's not because we want to form a wedge between our agency and our partners. It's because we understand that if we're not doing unannounced inspections, if we're not creating an office of external civil rights, if we're not working and saying environmental justice matters, if we're not putting requirements and mandates within legislation that says 40% of funding has to go to XYZ, those are really, really big steps that don't give us the result we need overnight, but those are things that have never happened within the Environmental Protection Agency and federal agencies. So along with the laws and policies, there's language that's being used that is acknowledging the fact that zip codes that represent people of color are overwhelmingly and disproportionately affected. So what I'm saying all that for is to just let you know, there's a lot of things that are changing. We have a lot of work to do, but we need this conversation. Now, you all are coming to this microphone tonight. What needs to happen is a consistency in us having this engagement so that you guys can keep up with the changes we're making and the adjustments that we have to make in the coming years.
Okay, about acute and chronic exposure.
Yes, ma'am, and if you could, on this, can this be your last one? We have to finish this.
Now, I know it was before you that you just didn't answer that part.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the education, like how are you gonna do better education when it comes to acute incident exposure that people have and chronic exposure over time?
That's a great question, and I think the reality is and this is not to go away from the agency as a whole, that is a whole of government challenge that we have. It's not just with EPA, it's not just with the Department of Energy or HHS. We have to work better with our state and local partners to engage K through 12 education, to work with our institutions. For example, one thing that we're doing that we can announce is in Jackson, Mississippi, dealing with the water crisis. One of the things that we're going to begin to do is enter into a memorandum of understanding with Jackson State. I'm using them, I know we're in Memphis, but we're working with HBCUs that are in cities and communities to leverage education at the collegiate level, but then also recruit, right? We in our agency, and I'll say this real quick so we can go on to the next question, we are at a severe crisis right now within federal and state government. We are losing an enormous amount of men and women that have added 20, 30 years of service to our agency. We cannot replace someone that has a science, health, or engineering background with someone that is just coming out of college. So much information. I have 55 engineers that are eligible for retirement right now in my region. So one of the things that we have to do is make sure that, number one, we're recruiting and building infrastructure and getting folks that come from these communities to come and work within federal agencies and organizations that can help to solve that problem. But number two, we've got to work with our state partners and make sure that the funding and the resources that are available can be articulated at local level. Here's one example, urban agriculture. Looking at areas where there are grants and funding available, that may not solve every problem, but we can get into our schools and have more conversations with young people there. But it's going to take more than just our agency working with those partners locally. We have to get more of those folks in the room so that when we're having these conversations, a superintendent, not just a councilman or a congressman, we need teachers in here, we need doctors in here, we need more faith leaders. It's a whole community approach to what we're saying.
I understand that, but how do you fix the problem with the
We
fact
can't
sheet?
fix the problem by ourselves, ma'am.
With the fact sheet not having information about chronic exposure.
So every
Because
time.
it only focuses on two chronic exposure diseases.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you fix that on the fact sheet to include some more things?
Every single time we come into a room, we're gonna make an adjustment for our next meeting. So any information that we see, when we get critical and constructive feedback like that, our goal is to then go back, my entire staff, we're gonna have a briefing in Atlanta. Once we get back, we'll talk about what can be improved upon, what we can do better, how we can change our language, how we can maybe we get a QR code and put that something. We have to weigh all those options, but we're also an agency that relies on resources allocated. So we have to take what you said, and then maybe within our documentation, we can start adding stuff. So that the next time we build upon that, the next time we get better, and ultimately we'll have a document that may not answer every question, but it'll have a lot more information than where we started. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. We want to connect you with Daphne as well so we can follow up.
Where's Daphne?
Maybe outside. She's
Okay.
got no cards.
Okay.
And also we want to just build on what Daniel was saying. We are committed to building community, education, and elected official contact lists in our region. hear that effort is underway, and we'll, share information with anybody that we have their contact information.
Okay, if we can do this really quickly, just a point of privilege, because we're up against time, we have a lot of questions. If we can try and limit it to a question so that one of our panelists can answer and respond to it, we're gonna move as quickly as possible so that we don't have to cut anyone off. We wanna get every question in person and online, okay? Yes, ma'am.
So, really quickly though, we're gonna transition to a couple online questions.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
And just because we've got a few on here, we wanna make sure we take that really quick. But I do wanna make sure, Daphne, if you're outside, Daphne, we wanna connect you with this lady here in this like altitude sweater. She had some recommendations about the fact sheet that we wanna take back, with some follow-up briefings. So for, some questions that we have online, and some questions that we have here, for folks that submitted a question card. First off, Madeline, do we have any information that ethylene oxide impacts animals?
So the science is pretty light in that area, but there is some reason to believe that animals are susceptible to many of the same exposures that we are, but we don't have a lot of definitive answers. I wish I could get more detail.
Great, so another question online, can EtO sterilizers operate without emitting any EtO into a neighborhood?
Probably not without emitting any, just because, I mean, that's me being a little bit of a scientist, but I think we can get to a place where risk is so low that it is almost zero. But if you use something, there's always going to be some small amount of it that gets out.
So we have another question that's coming directly from our website. On our website, we say that there has been no recent installation of controls and no current plans for new controls at this time. The question from this individual is, why is this issue not a priority for EPA at this time?
So I think maybe this goes to well, I guess it's for us. So I'll say what about us, but then I think maybe if you know anything about what's going on in the facility, that might be helpful. So it is a priority for us. We can't force a facility to do something that is not under the law, right? So the way that we're showing it's a priority is to hear from you and use that to make the rule better. But until we have that new rule, we can't force them to install a new control system. We are working with any facility that will work with us to encourage some of that early action. And some facilities have taken that, and I don't know if there is any indication in Tennessee.
So for the facility here in Shelby County, they have been very cooperative with Shelby County Health Department. They do know that there is a new rule coming, and they are making plans to put those controls in place as soon as they know what the new rule is. So the issue is that until the proposed rule comes out, they don't know how many controls they have to put in. But they have communicated to our department that they are willing to put those controls in as soon as possible. And so I go back to the engagement piece to all of you all. It is really important. I can't stress this enough, what Ms. Freeman has been discussing about the public comment period when the proposed rule comes out. It is very important that you make your voices heard during that period as well, especially when it comes to existing facilities and how long they have to come into compliance with the new regulation. If you want that to be less than 3 years, you need to make sure that you are making those public comments. And the other thing that I would remind everyone is, we've talked a lot about the cancer incidence study that we're doing with Tennessee Department of Health. Please know that that study usually takes about 2 to 3 months to complete, and we will come back in front of this community again to share those results and next steps for what else we are doing and what else we have done within that period.
Thanks, Dr. Taylor. Another question we have is someone saying they've driven by the facility and the doors have been open. Is there any way to know whether or not that's an issue at the facility here that we're talking about, those doors being open when they drive by?
Thank you for that question, first of all. That will definitely be a concern, considering the fact that if the doors are open, then 9 times out of 10, if that facility is operating, and I'm saying that because I don't know if it was operating at the time or not, but if the facility is operating and they have supplies on the inside that have been treated, with ethylene oxide, then emissions are being released into the environment.
Is there a way
Another
for?
question we have about, someone asking if you could clarify, Caroline, what you had stated that there was a percentage of fugitive emissions that were causing a risk. It was like 85, 86. One of the persons that wrote in at CARB wanted to know if you could clarify that percentage.
Yes, what that means is that we actually took a look to see what percentage of the emissions that are coming from this facility are considered fugitive emissions versus what's actually coming out of the air-controlled process stack. And what we were able to calculate is that 86% of the emissions that we are modeling in the risk model that's displayed on the gradient map is equivalent to 86% of those emissions coming from open windows, open doors, vents that are not controlled, as well as any areas that could possibly have cracks in that building where these emissions are seeping out of.
Thanks, Caroline. Another question is asking, do we have any information about other cancer incident studies happening near other commercial sterilizers? Maybe Madeline, you could take that one if you know nationally. Are we aware of any other cancer incident studies?
I know about a couple, but maybe that's also something for EPSDR. We know about a couple that are ongoing, and they're being run also by the counties. So there's one near Laredo, and the county health department there is doing a cancer incident study as well.
That's Laredo, Texas.
Laredo, Texas, yes, sorry. But I don't have a comprehensive list. We could probably look into it, but maybe Michelle would know, APSDR Michelle.
We'll see if, I don't know if Michelle's still with us here. Okay, so, I think that's a question we can follow up on. I'm not sure who wrote this card, but if you're still in the room, if you're okay with identifying yourself, that'd be great. If not, we can follow up on that and take this back.
Taylor, I would like to say though, in the state of Tennessee, there is another cancer risk study going on for the new Taswell commercial sterilizer as well. So there are two that are being conducted in the state of Tennessee.
Okay, great. So our friends at ATSDR are going to also look into that, and we'll see if we can get some answers posted to the website that's up there. And then the last question I have here before we go back to the folks in the room is, and maybe Madeline, you can start with this one, is what do we know about the impact to workers at these facilities?
So we know enough that we're concerned about it. So we spent a lot of today talking about the work that we're doing to update the rule under the Clean Air Act, which governs how much EtO can come out of the facility. There's a different rule called FIFRA, which is the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act, that governs how pesticides can be used, and EtO under the law is considered a pesticide because it is used to kill bacteria and other germs. And so that part of our office is looking at worker risk, and they've done some analysis, and they're going to use that analysis to try to put in better restrictions on how EtO can be used by a worker in a facility like this. That work should also reduce risk in the community. It's not the focus of their analysis, but it should reduce risk to people who live near the facility as well. In their analysis, they're looking, the analysis that Caroline talked about was really focused only on people that live right near it. But we realize that some areas there's a gap, right? Because what if you go to school close to this facility, but you don't live there? It's not your whole life. And so they're going to look at everybody that they didn't look at, right? So workers, but also workers that are near the facility and the people who are at school near it. And so that analysis will have more that we can share, around the same time that this rule is proposed, we'll be able to share more about, what that risk looks like to workers. They're not doing a community by community analysis. The way they do their laws is a little different, but they are looking nationally at all those groups.
Thank you, Madeline. So I think we made our way through the queue online. We're going to flip back to the room, but I do want to highlight that we got only about 40 minutes left before we do have to respect the folks who are helping us out with the church here. We're going to get to a point where we can shut the door. So I just want to make sure we can get to the rest of y'all standing up. Go ahead with your question.
Hi, so my question was, in the context that federal regulations might take some time to get emissions under a level that the community might be comfortable with. So for people that are worried about living next to ETO and the emissions that they're at now, will there be any federal, state, or local resources for them to have temporary housing or help finding other permanent residency and leaving the area?
I don't think that we have any authority or ability to offer that. I mean, I can understand the concern, but I don't know of anything that we could do to provide that. You know, our powers are the powers that we have, and we're trying to use all the powers we have to help, but they are limited.
Hello, my name is Vera Webb Holmes. I am the president of Malra Heights CDC. This is my community. I came back May of 2017 because my mother was the president, and she asked me to come back, but she had heart failure. Not just that, there's so many different issues. Her name is Mary Alice Morrow, and she have made so many sacrifices for the community, for the schools, just for people in general. What is happening is hands on deck. So many people are sick, so many people are dying. My mother-in-law, who was in this area, has 2 types of cancer, which I have to take her to cancer to get her chemo on tomorrow. That's weekly. My board member has cancer. This is home. This have hit home for me. Coming back to Memphis and to see all the different environmental issues is overwhelming. Because one of the things, my first task from the board members was dealing with another company, Ashland, that is near Valero, had dumped 100 drums of oil in the ground, and it leaked in our soil. Now, it is so many different issues that is going on dealing with environmental issues. That's our water, our soil, and what's in the air. We have to take some tests. Right now, we are in a position to bring food and to have a community garden where we had to go out of the community to actually build and to grow food to bring it back in. We need your help. But my recommendation, we need a task force. Because if we have to be able to be the voice for our own people and for our own community. But we have to have the resources and we have to have the skill set that you have so we can educate, so we can be on top of this. Because I have been on top of some of these issues, and I can guarantee you on what has happened is sad. Because most of these companies, once they get their permit and they are under the light, the next thing they sell the following year. So it's out of their hands. So the next company, it's just a road. It's just the same old, and these companies continue to do this for years. These are years. I left in '87, and to come back to see this community the way it is, and what we are doing to our people and our seniors from here, is sad. It's sad. This is my mother. This is my mother-in-law. These are board members. These are seniors in this community who have sacrificed everything. We can do better. We have to do better. But based on the question to the health department, it is critical for you to get true numbers on what is going on with our people. Everything, not just cancer, everything. We need that. Those are numbers, that's data. And we have to get those numbers and we have to share it. And we cannot continue to put things up under
rug, it's not happening. It's killing us. My VP did it last year. People are dying. It's too many people around me sick. This is real, and it's overwhelming. Because this is death. So I'm looking for everyone who's willing to help this community. You have my support. You have my support. Help us, because we need help. I had no idea coming back to seeing what we are seeing and all the things that is happening in our community. This is real. It feels like it's a movie. And that's what hurt. Because what I had the resources, I had everything. I was able to go to middle school, Riverview, Carver High School. I had a full ride to University of Memphis playing basketball. I had it all from this community. These people don't have that. Every resources that we have had in this community was gone, was in the process of leaving. We are fighting to bring all of that back. So that's just, the only thing that I can do is ask for help. But we need a task force of people who really care about this community, because too many companies are doing what they want to do. They are policing themselves. That's the rules, that's the policies, and that's not right. Because human lives should matter first, but they don't.
I hear your pain, and I think we want to work with you to help solve some of these issues. I know we've mostly talked about this one chemical tonight, ethylene oxide, but I think Daniel, when he spoke, was very genuine that we want to solve these other issues too. So this isn't the last time we're going to be here.
Piggyback a little bit, my name is Jason Pearson, off of my wife, Kimberly Pearson. In response to your comment to her, conversation without accountability leads to empty promises. And what we're here for today is to find out, first of all, how long have you known, how long has this agency known that EtO could cause cancer? And what guidelines are you putting in place in order that the EJ outlives your administration? Because EJ is more important than one administration. It's more important than one specific person being in power. We need to know what are the guidelines, what are the guide rails put in line, put there in order to ensure that we have EJ for the future. And we need to know, how long have you guys known that this was a cancer-causing agent that has been polluting our communities? Because see, at some point, someone has to be held accountable. We're tired of taking young people to the grave, young mothers, young fathers to the grave based upon EJ. So now is the moment that we're standing here. I graduated from Howard University, HU. I bless you. I'm glad that you have this opportunity to be in this position. I'm thankful to God for it. Now, let's have the real conversation, because the people deserve an answer about why and how long has the Environmental Protection Agency known that this killer was in our community.
So I can take the how long, but then maybe we can talk about that. So I wish there was like a single point in time, but I'll try to tell you a little bit of the history, because there wasn't really a single point in time when we knew, except for at the end of July, that we realized that this was a risk here and what that risk looked like. But we've known that EtO was toxic for longer than that. In 2016, our Office of Research and Development looked at all the science and determined that EtO was about 40 times more toxic than we had initially thought. And when we found that out, we knew that that was very bad, but we didn't yet know where the risk was. And even for sure if people were actually being exposed to it. So what we did was to work very hard from that point to try to understand exactly which communities are impacted and what sources are impacted. And so that's when we learned that commercial sterilizers were potentially a source of risk. And one of the reasons, as I think folks discussed already, is commercial sterilizers are often closer to communities than some of the other places that use EPO are often further away from where people live. And so as we sort of understood these two things together, that's when we did this further analysis where we reached out and got all of the details that we could about every single one of these commercial sterilizers so that we could actually map the risk, so that we could understand which of these communities really are in a place where this risk is high. And we were shocked and alarmed by what we found, and it's why we're here in this community today. But we completed that analysis at the end of July. So
you still didn't give me an answer. I'm asking you, when did you know that this specific toxin could actually cause cancer?
So that, 2016 is when the IRIS was updated.
That this particular toxin
that
could cause cancer.
Yeah, EtO was determined to be carcinogenic in 2016.
So based on that, and I think it's important for you to understand, when she talks about the date in 2016 and the mapping, a lot of the information that they get, whether it's data that has been supported by the agency or by other groups, once that information is made public, has been made public to us. So for example, what she mentioned about July, our responsibility and our goal is to make sure that as soon as we know and it's fact checked and we have information that goes through headquarters, we then take that information once it's approved and we're able to share that information. We're not here to hide anything. We want to be transparent. That's why we're here tonight. To answer your first part of your question, as to what can be done to make sure this happens ongoing, I think it's important for us to recognize the fact that, again, I'm going to sound like a broken record. This Office of Environmental Justice will long outlive Administrator Regan and myself. This office is going to be staffed. This office will be a permanent fixture of the Environmental Protection Agency. Our goal is to make sure that we make it as strong as possible now. And that's why, for example, we are coming into communities. I just got back from HBCU a month and a half ago. We're going in and actively recruiting, building up these spaces and making sure that every aspect of our agency is as strong as possible. One of the first things that I mentioned when I came to the agency about my priorities was building a bench. We want to make sure that we have a pool of talent that we recruit from internally that exists, but then also bring new people and new faces into the agency, not just as scientists and engineers, but that can go into an Office of Environmental Justice, so that regardless of if it's an administration change, the office exists with career employees that are there that outlive many of the policies and the changes. Challenge to your question is not just what can be done, it's how can we put people in place that make this a long-term opportunity and not just something that is propped up for a media post. We want to make sure that once we establish it, we are hiring people that are making this their life's work.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, I appreciate it. I still don't, you're telling me from 2016 to now is the length of time that we have known that was a cancer-causing agent, and that's hard as hell to believe.
I'm Justin J. Pearson. We're here by design. Our communities are overpolluted. There are more toxic release inventory facilities in Southwest Memphis than anywhere else in Shelby County. We have been dying disproportionately. And what we're being told is to wait. We can't afford to wait. We've been waiting. We've been waiting on studies. We've been waiting on people to change. We've been waiting on administrations to change. We've been waiting on people to care and be held accountable for what's happening in our community. We can't afford to wait. In 2013, a study came out by Dr. Gia Sharari at the University of Memphis. Don't know why we need more studies. Cancer risk is 4.1 times greater in South Memphis than anywhere else in this county. Same professor, 2 months ago, released another study. If you live in Westwood, where we're from, your life expectancy is 10 years shorter than if you live in Germantown. We don't need to wait. You want qualitative research? How many people here know somebody who has died of cancer or has been sick themselves in this community? It's not one facility that's our problem. It's a systemic problem of devaluing our lives. It's that we are being sacrificed for polluters. We are being sacrificed for their profits, and we are being sacrificed because people in positions of power are not caring about our lives. We can afford to wait, and we recognize that because of redlining and because of systemic policies, including land use, which some folks here mentioned, is what got us in this predicament. But what is equally important is that we are powerful, and we showed polluters before that we're powerful. We stopped 2 multi-billion-dollar corporations from building a pipeline in South Memphis. We did that together using data and information and all that good stuff too to help us to protect our community. They ain't coming to save us.
Come on, boy.
They coming to inform us.
That's it.
The house is on fire. They didn't come with water. They didn't come with the red trucks. They didn't come with the ambulances. They came telling us that there are more studies to come. They came telling us that this is really concerning to them, and they're going to get back on wonderful planes and head back to Atlanta. I love y'all, but you're not from here. You don't live here. You don't understand this. But we do. And so MCAP, our organization, on the 29th, we're having another community meeting where we get to discuss what we want to see happen, because I think sterilization services has got to go. We don't have 3 months, I think it is, Ms. Caroline, for them to come up with a rule. 90 days for us to comment on the rule. 12 months for them to write the rule. 3 years for sterilization services to obey the rule. So how many people need to get sick? How many more people need to die before we take seriously the effects of this cancer-causing carcinogen and the many other ones that are in the neighborhood and in the community? We've got work to do, but we can do it. We've got voices, we've got people in positions of power who can speak on behalf of us. We can fight back and not be told that we just need to stop and wait. We've waited long enough. We've died long enough. And now we're fighting back because we've had enough.
Don't leave. I mean, I hear you. Sir, I just let you speak for about 5 minutes. I would like to respond.
Go ahead.
It's easy for you to say everything that you said, and I agree with the majority of why people are here and our ability to wait or not wait. I think the challenge is that's just not how this process ultimately works. What I would like to do, and it was mentioned earlier, about a task force, right? The problem with everything you just said, well, not everything, but the majority of what you said is that takes us back to the problem. You saying that you don't need us, or you saying that you want to form a group, I hear you. But at the end of the day, the resources don't come from the group you have. The resources come from an administration that has resources, that wants to listen, that has to adjust, and we have to do things collectively. And I'm sitting here looking at you, and I'm saying this because I've been in your position. And I understand fundamentally the frustration and wanting to organize on the ground. But the reality is we're living in a time right now, I can't speak for 5 years from now. We're living in a time where there's actually funding and resources on the table to support organizations, to work with coalitions, to work with groups. I'm not going to mention some of the places we've been. We had some conversations in certain areas throughout our region. We came back with resources, with technical support. It's not the answer for everything, but for us to try and do it in silos is not going to make this community any stronger.
That's right.
So all I'm asking you is have the group, have the meeting, have that organization, invite us back, let us know how or what we can be doing better. But to separate what you're saying and what you would like to do out of a very justified frustration isn't going to allow us to move any faster or do any more work. The question this gentleman asked about how we can persist beyond this meeting, beyond this time, and how we're able to answer it, there are measures being put in place now. And I'm not going to sit here and pat any administration on the back, but in my lifetime, it's very hard to see a federal agency that wants to work or make promises or commit without coming with a check of resources or information.
Yeah, actually, we're on the same.
And I just want to make sure, I'm saying that not to discourage you, but I think it's important, brother, seriously. I think it's important for you to take the stance you have, because you're right, we're not from here. Right across the street from my office is Vine City in English Avenue. Every single one of my members in our community come from a community or an area that has in some way, shape, or form a disproportionate impact or effect. And our job is to make sure that our staff, our division directors, and all of us that come here can work with people like yourself, because you're right, yeah, I'm gonna get on a plane in the morning, but some of the communities I go back to are no better than this community right here. So I would ask you to coordinate, organize, build, replicate, increase the amount of people in this room, invite us back, and let's continue to have that conversation.
Yeah, Regional Administrator, here's the thing. Our community wasn't really well informed about this opportunity here by your office.
Yes, sir.
11,000 mailers went out to this neighborhood. Guess which organization sent them? Come on. 14,000 text messages. Guess which organization sent them? Don't. Memphis Community Against Pollution, former Memphis Community Against Pipeline did that.
Okay.
You have failed to adequately inform this community about what's going on.
Period.
Okay.
Period.
And it's
I appreciate me.
Yes, sir.
And I appreciate the position and authority that you have in Director Taylor. As I appreciate what Shelby County Health Department has done, but it's underfunded, it's understaffed, and it's killing us. I don't disagree that you don't understand the issue, but what I'm saying is,
yes, sir.
Your process, you know a little bit about government. Your process is that you're going to do a rule in 3 months. We're going to have 60 days to respond to it. You have a year to write it, and then we have 2 to 3 years to comply. Isn't that right, Ms. Keller? I heard you say it 2 times this morning. I know that's true.
Yes, sir.
What I am saying, and what I think the people here who suffer with not just ETO, but with a lot of other cancers and a lot of other illnesses, is that we can't wait only to participate in this singular process. And I agree. The Shelby County Health Department to be fully funded in order that the air pollution program is fully funded and benefits our community and is not understaffed. See, we ain't gotta wait for you to write a rule for us to
and we agree with
this.
this.
You see what I'm saying? We don't have to wait to get advocacy so that, exactly, to take action about the Land Use Control Board and the fact that they keep allowing polluters into 38109 in this district because we're black and because we're poor. We don't have to wait on you to do that.
And we agree.
And so what I'm saying is the movement that we're organizing isn't one that's gonna wait for you to make a new rule. It's one that takes the information and the knowledge that we do have, and it activates and mobilizes the people that are currently here who are suffering and dying now. It's the one that's gonna push the Shelby County Health Department to get fully funded by the county commission. So these folks are the ones that are gonna push to make sure sterilization services not only reduces, but is eliminated. See, this is the movement that we're talking about. And we need you to go back to Atlanta and do your job well.
Yes, sir.
Right, and know that you got Memphis to support you. Yes, but what we're not gonna do is wait until a new rule comes and justice is coming. Because we don't have time to wait.
We appreciate that.
Thank you
so much, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, because we're up on time, if we can, and again, thank you for the discourse. If you could limit it to a question, I think do we have any more online?
We do not have any other questions online.
So we have these, you 3 are the last, and we are in the house of worship, the house of the Lord. We want to be respectful of this facility. Please ask your question and allow us to respond. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Charlotte Humphrey, and I'm living in 38109 zip code. It's a poverty area. It's poor. Whatever is going on in that area is a reason why businesses or residents cannot come there. There's no growth in 38109. Growth is not there. There's nobody moving there. It's a reason why. Maybe it's the ETO, maybe it's other chemical places, but it's a reason why there's no growth in 38109. Thank you.
Nothing but that.
It was no, and I said,
What's fair? What's stopping the growth from coming to 311?
I took that as a comment, not as a
Is
question.
it an ETO problem? Is it a chemical problem? What is it? There's no growth there.
Okay. I mean, I honestly just to be very frank with you and direct, poverty is an issue, not only in Memphis, throughout our country, and those barriers that exist are not just with that particular issue. We're dealing with an array of issues, and I think for me to stand here and go down a list of multiple ones it wouldn't be fair at this point. But I will agree with you that there are a lot of other social indicators that are having impacts on communities. We see it every day, and our job is to really try and come in and start with an issue, build upon that, and try and connect as many dots as possible. Every program we've had, from our Clean School Bus program, trying to reduce emissions to help protect the lungs of our children, address asthma awareness issues, these are all issues that cannot be separated from poverty. So I definitely would agree that there are multiple indicators. Tonight, we're here to talk about ethylene oxide and to make sure you're informed, but we do recognize and acknowledge that there are multiple factors that address these issues, including food deserts and other concerns that we address. But for this purpose and for this forum, I do appreciate your comment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
So I'll be brief with my question. I know that you mentioned that this site was based off of, this is based off of modeling. It's not an exact up-to-date measurement of actual numbers of the levels of the ethylene oxide that's currently in the community. Is that correct?
This is actually an up-to-date model. As a matter of fact, this is based on the latest available information that we got, and we quality controlled that information to ensure that it was accurate. And we got this information sometime near the end of July.
So actually, that wasn't my full question, but I thank you. So this information, where did it come from? You mentioned, where did it come from? And is our Shelby County Health Department, the Air Pollution Department, is it well equipped and funded to handle any potential testing, outreach, resources, or does it have the ability to not be handed over to the state? Is there a way that, is it well funded to the point where we can maintain it here in Shelby County and also support the needs of the community by continuing monitoring, testing to keep accurate numbers being provided to the area that's impacted by EtO?
Start and then you speak. Okay. As far as where the information came from, this information came directly from the facilities operation. Okay, so we did actually take a look to see how much ethylene oxide was being utilized at these facilities, which processes are already under control, which processes are not under control, and also what the latest emission stat data look like. And we also took a look at weather, meteorological patterns in this area, and then we took a look at the communities and put that into the model to generate this gradient map that was on the screen. But I'm going to now transition to Dr. Taylor for her to respond to your other part of the question.
Thank you for that question, and I will say that I am so happy that so many people in the audience are concerned about the level of funding for the Shelby County Health Department. But what I will say is this, I only have to take issue with one thing that Brother Pearson said, because we've had some good conversations over the last couple of months. And it's that we don't care about people's lives. And I can speak for myself and everybody at Shelby County Health Department, and I believe I can speak for our partners here at the EPA. We do care about people's lives. I need to have that on the record here. Now, as far as funding for our air pollution control section within our Environmental Health Bureau at the Shelby County Health Department, we are always appreciative for any funding or resources that come in, whether it be federal, state, or local. So I have said this many times to this group, to the group this morning, and all the time. We are always looking for additional resources to do our jobs better. But please know that right now, we have a dual-hatted process, because I know there's been a lot in the media about our air pollution control section specifically. We have hired contractors to do immediate work that was found to be lacking in 2018 and 2019, when there was a whole different leadership team at the Shelby County Health Department. And then we all know what's happened between 2020 and 2022. COVID hit. We don't want to use COVID as an excuse, but it's a fact. So now, with a new leadership team, we have made air pollution control a top priority in our department. I can truly say that probably from the second week I was on the job in August of 2021, we started talking about what we needed to do to shore up and make sure that we were doing everything we could within our environmental health section, particularly our air pollution section, to make sure that we are putting the things and the staffing in place that we need. Please understand that the staff that goes out every day is very committed, but yes, they are understaffed. So in addition to having those contractors stand in the gap right now, we are also looking to fully staff the program again, but know that county government, and a lot of people don't talk about this, you know, City Councilman Ford, he's nodding his head. He knows what I'm about to say. Government workers don't make what people who do the same jobs in the private sector make. They just don't. And sometimes they make half as much. So imagine trying to staff a program with people who could go out and make twice as much on the private side and still get quality, experienced people to do that work. So that's why we've had to hire contractors. I know that it is not what people want to hear, but it's what has to happen now to make sure that the work gets done. But in the meantime, we are looking to hire people to staff that program in full-time positions. And we are looking to raise the salary so that we can at least get close to market rates and be able to retain good, talented staff. But I will tell you that from the Shelby County Health Department side, we have dedicated professionals who go out every day, not just in our air pollution section, but across the health department, to really, really make sure that we are promoting and protecting and improving the health of people in Shelby County. That's not just a slogan, that's a fact. And so whether we have half the resources we need, or we've got resources coming out of our ears, job's gonna get done. Because we believe that the people in Shelby County deserve that. They deserve that. And you heard that all night tonight. That people in Shelby County deserve to have their health protected. I'm so happy that so many of you all are here to raise your voices and your concerns. And I want you to continue to do that. Because that's what it's going to take to get to a different level of understanding about what's going on in 38109 and other communities here in the county. That's what it's going to take. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, this is going to be our last for the evening.
Thank you so much. I've got a couple of really rapid fire questions for EPA folks. So 2001, chamber vents were deregulated officially after a 97 investigation into a couple of explosions due to them being overfed. Sterilization Services of Tennessee has chamber vents as one of their venting practices. Are you guys in any talks to reinstate with maybe more monitoring equipment, more updated monitoring equipment, pardon me, as those new regulations for chamber vents?
Thank you very much for that question, sir. As it stands right now, we have not seen the proposed regulations, and so it's very difficult for us to comment on that. But based on the information that the agency has received, what we are taking a look at is all of those processes and actually air vents that were not initially controlled to ensure that controls are being looked at in the actual proposal. Now, once we actually get the proposal in front of us, that's a proposal. And that public comment period is not just only for you all, it's for us as well. And so we will comment on those things when we take a look at what the proposed rule says. But right now, it's very hard for us to comment on what's coming when we haven't seen it.
And a follow-up to the 86% number for the fugitive emissions. How much of those do you guys know come from different types of vents versus doors, windows, et cetera? Or is that just kind of like a number that you guys have?
You know what, Rick, would you like to help me out on how you went about bringing that calculation to the surface?
Hello, everyone. My name is Rick Gillum. I'm a staff member in Caroline section, and I'm an air modeler, and I actually did those calculations based off of the information that went into the model. And based off of that information, it's broken down by the different vents that you're talking about, the stacks and all of that. And so we calculated those numbers based off of the emissions information, the best information that we got from our investigation that we used this past July. And that breakdown is that a number of different vents that are currently uncontrolled is at 86%.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, sir, for that question, and I'm going to turn it over to my regional administrator to close this out.
I'm going to steal it on the way, just because I think we didn't mention a couple of resources tonight from our colleagues at APSDR that I think would be helpful to you all, or potentially helpful. One thing we sometimes hear is when folks try to talk to their doctor about this issue, they're not heard, or the doctor doesn't know enough about the issue to be able to be a helpful advocate for you. And so one of the things that our colleagues at APSDR did was develop a clinician's brief specifically on ethylene oxide that talks about all of these things in sort of clinician language. So I think we can share the URL for that. I think it's also on our website, but if you Google APSDR ethylene oxide clinician brief, it will come up. And that resource, it's not really written for a community member, it's written for a doctor, but if you want to go to your doctor and talk to him about this risk, then or her, I should be, definitely lots of women are doctors, about this risk, then you can take that with you. The other resource I want to mention from them is called Chemicals, Cancer, and You. It is a more, and for a lot of these other issues that you guys have brought up with cumulative risk, it is a more lay person, like meant for a community member, discussion of some of these issues, and it goes into there's a lot of good information in there. Chemicals, Cancer, and You is also on, I think we linked to it on our website, but it's also on APSDR. And then finally is the Pediatric Environmental Health Specialty Units, and that's a group that we fund, but also APSDR funds. Each one, there's a regional representative, and we could share, you can find them as well. I think we already have their link on our website as well. But if you're looking for someone who could help you be an advocate on environmental health issues, especially if you have kids, but they also deal with sometimes non-pediatric issues because they recognize that there aren't enough experts in environmental health. That's all I want to mention.
At this time, we just want to say thank you for your comments, for your concerns, for everything that you've shared with us. We do appreciate it, and we want to bid you a safe travel to your homes, and we hope that we can continue this conversation. Thank you all so much.
Thank you all.
Really quickly too, we want to thank Justin and your organization at Memphis Community Against Pollution for helping us get the word out, and we look forward to continuing to work with you. And I think our Aaron also has some announcements that you want to make before people walk out.
Yeah, so we know we got a lot of good feedback tonight, a lot of great ideas about how to coordinate going forward, and we are genuinely committed to that, as you heard Ari Blackman speak to. So please reach out to our
region. We will love to keep you informed on our next steps. Please sign up for those updates. And as a recap, we're going to post the meeting slides. This recording will be available once we are able to get the transcription done. And we want to thank our partners who joined us tonight from the Shelby County Health Department and ATSDR, and also for the Monumental Baptist Church staff who were so helpful getting this organized, Ms. Cunningham, Mr. Richards, and Taurus. So thank you, and Pastor Brian for agreeing to let us come here. Thank you all. My legs don't work anymore. Sit down for me too. Any of those that?
So you guys need to follow on those too.
Got it. Are there any others that?
This was really informative.